Yes,
doing her
absolutely,
job, whatever.
and really wanting to get away from that,
Yeah.
and you know, scratches her body in the baths, and she's trying to, and she ends up in the pool out at the Orchard House, where all of these women end up in the end.
It's interesting. The first thing she'd done after she escaped the prostitution, the brother, and she went to a public bath and washed off all
Yes.
her this memory, and she was very dramatic about that.
Yes, yes.
And you
And
say this is
scraping, almost
realism?
scraping down to the
Yeah.
skin, and making her skin bleed to get rid of that, to really get rid of this. I think it's kind of like magical realism, that things happen continually that
I
are
see.
kind of unbelievable.
We have no control over
that we have
some-
no control over. So it's not a story that is really
Yeah,
a straight
it's beginning
narrative,
and then
and
middle.
much like with Sharinda Schatz's work, because as an artist, she is, as a video maker, her work is very much about sort of very lyrical and very magical.
So, some of the narrative, as you say, is not linear. It's not has a beginning and a middle and a plot and protagonist and whatever, all that. But the sceneries and it's amazing scenes.
Beautiful, isn't it beautifully shot?
And
Every scene is so gorgeous.
Yes. Is she, that's her deal? or
That
what?
is her deal. She is an amazing video artist. She comes from the visual arts world. This is her first feature film.
I mean, she lived in Iran how long? Do you know?
Well, she lived until she was at college age, and
I
she
see.
happened to be, she came to the United States for college, and that's when the revolution happened, and
I
so
see.
she stayed
Plus,
outside
like
of
a
the
lot
country.
of Iranians did.
So, and she didn't go back. I think she did go back at times, but most of her work, so she was educated, continued her education in the United States, and started making her artwork. She's represented by a very prestigious gallery in New York and is known very much for her photographs and her video work. In fact, she was at the Walker in 2002 with a piece that was installed in the galleries with very large screens that had the same look sort of this film, this sort of beautiful landscape, open spaces, figure against the building. So she has that same look in this
She has
film.
a style, huh?
Yes, very much.
Very distinctive
Yeah.
style. It's interesting because last week we have the Arab Film Festival.
Yes.
And then it's almost 25 different movies. And here we have the Iranian almost film festival. So what is about Minnesota that are really attracting all this wonderful interest and curiosity about international films and international culture?
I think people are really interested. Just as you say, they're very curious right now, especially because you hear so much stuff in the news every day. Iran is in the news, many of the Arab countries are in the news, and people want to know more than the surface. They want to know more than they get from the news sources. So what better way than your dramatic filmmakers to sort of give you a picture of a country? I mean, they're not necessarily documentaries, they are storytelling, but I think we can learn a lot more sometimes from the stories that are told to us than a documentary.
And there is no such thing as 100% documentary because you still have to inject some perspective to your documentary. Well, let's set up the scene for Zahrin was her name, the prostitute. She was escaped again. But what struck me in the movie, she really had a scene where she actually went to a mosque after she escaped the brothers and faced all men in the mosque.
Yes.
And I thought that is very telling. And I don't know, by design or intention, to go and face men for the place where maybe a woman is not allowed, or maybe where men use religion to oppress women, whatever. There's a lot of symbolism in that scene. Any taken about how that scene developed to end up at the mosque?
Well, I can't speak for the director, but in seeing how that scene comes together, because she leaves the house of prostitution, she goes to the baths and she cleanses herself. She wraps herself in this blue cloak and cloth, and then she goes first where all of these women are sort of singing and scrubbing, it looks like, and doing something, and she walks past all the women and she walks into the mosque, and then she stands there. And I think it's very provocative. I don't come from this culture, so I don't know quite what it means, and I'm sure that people would know.
Interesting to see what would be the reaction. I'm assuming these movies are not seen in Iran.
I don't know that it has been yet.
Yeah.
No, it played at the Venice Film Festival, where she won the Best Director award. It played at the Toronto Film Festival, the Sundance Film Festival. It's coming here to the Walker. It's going to New York, but I don't know that it's played in Iran. And I wonder what will happen when it shows there.
Well, let's see what will happen in Minneapolis.
Yes, yes.
Well, let's see what happened with Belahdan audience, with about 5 of them out there. But let's see that scene from.